In this video, I'm going to walk you through my 6-step B2B Google Ads audit checklist that has helped over 30 companies save thousands of dollars in wasted spend in their Google Ads account and generate more sales pipeline from their strategy. And in this video, I'm going to actually walk you through a live account, a real account, and audit it live for you to show you exactly how I would approach it for your business. Let's jump in. So in this audit, we're going to review 6 key steps to the audit checklist. And here's what we're going to really look at. So the first thing is checking if our conversion tracking is set up correctly. If we don't have the conversion tracking set up correctly, we're not going to have the right data to understand what keywords are actually driving the right conversions and making data-driven optimizations correctly. The second thing is we're going to evaluate the keyword targeting. We're going to make sure that the keywords we are bidding on are high intent, are very specific to what our services offer, and we feel confident that if we bid on them, we're going to get qualified conversions. Third, we're going to check our keyword match types and really make sure that we are showing up for the right search terms in our search term report. 4, we're going to evaluate our bidding strategy to make sure the bidding strategy is set up correctly to optimize for quality. 5, we're going to check the ad group structure. And then 6, we're going to check our device targeting. So let's jump into the account. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to double check if our conversions are set up correctly. So if our conversions are not set up correctly, there's a lot of downstream effects this can have with your strategy. So the first thing is, one, if we just don't have the right data populating in the conversion tracking, it's not going to show us the accurate data. So we're not going to truly know how many conversions we're getting and how many conversions we're getting by keyword. So the data is going to be all messed up. The second thing is if we are using an automated bidding strategy, this is going to mess up our automated bidding strategy because what Google does is it records these conversions, and everything it records as a conversion, it then feeds into its data and tries to optimize to find more people like the people you are marking as conversions. So if for whatever reason you're marketing all your page views as conversions, that means you're telling Google to go optimize for more people who are just browsing and not converting. So it's really important that you have this correct so that a lot of things can work well in your Google Ads account. So to do this, we're going to go to goals here. We're going to click on summary and we're going to look at the goals here. And as you can see, the main goal that this account has set up is needs attention. So it means it's not set up correctly. And as you can see, it says that it's converted 4,000 conversions in the last 6 months. So from talking to this client, I know that they said they're getting about 1 to 2 conversions a month. So something's not adding up here. Immediately, I know this is off and it's probably really affecting the strategy of the account. So what we can do is look into the conversion and try to see what's going on. It looks like it's a page load conversion based on them visiting this meetings page. So it's hard to know exactly without going to their website, understanding if this is correct or not, but something is off here and it's very obvious. So the first thing I would do is I would change the conversion tracking. I would make sure that it is firing when someone submits the form. And if you're using HubSpot, which a lot of our clients are, you can actually set up the tracking so that when the event trigger happens, when a form is submitted through a HubSpot form, that fires the conversion in Google Ads. So what it does is it completely aligns your HubSpot data with your Google Ads data. So this is probably the first thing that I would change, and it's really foundational to building the right strategy. The next thing I would do is I would evaluate the keywords they're bidding on. So the type of keywords that we want to bid on for B2B companies are high intent niche keywords. High intent keywords are keywords that indicate that someone is actively looking to evaluate or purchase a software solution or work with a company. So basically these keywords typically have words like company, software, platform, app, services, vendors. People are actually searching for someone to help them with a problem they're having. So we always want to be bidding on high intent keywords because if we can target people who we know are already searching for our solution, they're much more likely to convert and want to talk to a salesperson. The second thing is we want to get super specific with the keywords we're bidding on. The more specific the keyword is to the service you offer, the higher likelihood you're going to get more qualified leads. And we've seen that over and over again. So what we want to ensure is that we're not bidding on too vague of keywords and we're bidding on very specific keywords, especially if you're in a niche industry. You really want to dial in on those specific keywords that actually really describe what your company does. So the company that we're looking at, they offer a very specific service within the cybersecurity space. So they offer OT cybersecurity software. And to be honest, I don't know exactly what that is, but I know it's something around security, around technology for physical things. So like Internet of Things, stuff of that nature. It's definitely outside my wheelhouse, but I have a rough idea of what they do. So I'm looking at their keywords, and as you can see here, they're really vague and they're really low intent. So the keyword computer security, that can mean a host of things, right? It could be your grandma looking for how to secure her laptop. Internet security company. Better, it's high intent, right? It has the word companies, but internet security, that can mean a ton of things, not necessarily OT cybersecurity software. Cybersecurity software, again, hundreds of thousands of cybersecurity software companies. What specifically are they looking for within cybersecurity? We have no idea. So as you can see, these keywords are really vague and they're low intent. So what I would recommend them to do, and I did this, is I looked up their competitors and I looked at where they're showing up in review sites. And review sites are a great place to find the keywords, the high intent keywords that you want to bid on, because review sites specifically create category pages for softwares that they know are getting a lot of search volume. So if you can look at your competitors or see where you fall within these major review sites like G2, Capterra, TrustRadius, you can plug these into keyword research tools and really find those specific keywords that you want to be showing up for. So like, for example, I saw that this company's competitors were showing up in this category. So what I did is I just plugged this into my keyword research tool. I use SpyFu, and you can see here all these high intent specific keywords: intrusion prevention system, price, 80 searches, intrusion prevention system software, 630 monthly searches, IDPS security. See, now we're getting a lot more specific around the specific security service that they offer. And you can see we're finding very specific high intent terms that include these words like software, systems, solutions, and they're getting good monthly search volume. So I looked up some other search categories that I saw them showing up for, like IoT security solutions, IoT security products, and this extended detection and response platforms, right? So a very specific subset of cybersecurity that they are focused on. And again, they're all high intent. They all have search volume. These are the keywords I'm going to recommend them to test. Not all of them might be the best keywords for them, but it's going to put them in the much better position to convert the right people. So the next thing we want to look at is the keyword match types that the client is using. So just because you bid on a keyword, it doesn't mean that you actually show up for that search term in Google. So keywords and search terms are two separate things. And based on the match types you use, it determines how closely you match in the search terms, what people actually search in Google, to that keyword. So there's three match types. There's broad match, phrase match, and exact match. Broad match is the broadest form of matching. It basically means try to match for things that relate to this keyword. Exact match is on the far end, which basically means try to show up for these exact words. So there's positive and negatives to both strategies. Broad match gets you more volume. Exact match gets you more closely to the keyword. What we've found with B2B companies, because we are going after very specific buyers, we want to make sure we're going after the right people. And we want to get the qualified people to convert. It's not necessarily just about getting as many leads through the door as possible. So what we have found is we want to use tighter match types, because what it's going to do is it's going to help us make sure that we show up for the very specific keywords that we're trying to show up for and spend most of our money on those keywords to make sure that we get more of the right conversions. So in this account, what I'm seeing is that everything is broad match, which typically, in my opinion, is really not a good strategy. And what I see pretty frequently, especially with B2B software companies, is that broad match is a killer. You show up for so many search terms that have nothing to do with your platform whatsoever. I don't think this is a good strategy. I usually recommend going with phrase and exact match. We can actually check, right? So, and we always want to use the data to check to make sure that we're correct in our assumptions. So what we can do, for example, is we can go on this first keyword, security, computer security, that's broad match, and we can look in the search terms report here. And what we're looking for is we're trying to understand, are we actually showing up for that keyword very often or close variations of it? And if you look at it, like, we're really not. Security on this computer, like, what does that mean? Does that have anything to do with this OT cybersecurity company? Probably not. PC security. Like, very vague, right? Ransomware protection, right? They're all kind of relating to the theme of the keyword, but they don't actually have anything to do with the software that we're trying to promote. Let's look at something a little bit more specific. Cybersecurity software. Again, a little vague, but at least has the word software in it. So let's see. We're showing up for quantum encryption. I have no idea what that is. Best internet protection software. Again, not very specific to what this company is offering. Cloud web security. Doesn't really, like, it relates to cybersecurity software, but the point is we're actually not even showing up for this keyword, right? So even if we thought this was a good keyword, we're not even showing up for that when people search. So what we want to do is we want to move these match types to phrase and exact, and we want to keep monitoring this report, because sometimes even on a phrase match, you're getting things that have nothing to do with your keyword. So you want to monitor that, and if it keeps happening, go tighter and tighter with your match types. And then on top of that, any keyword that we see that is not a good fit for our service, which is going to happen, it's always going to happen, you just want to highlight and negative match. So you want to be negative matching and checking this almost daily to ensure that your money is only being spent on search terms that you feel confident are people who are actually searching for your service. So the next thing we want to do is we want to evaluate the bidding strategy. So the bidding strategy is super important because it actually determines how Google operates to find you the right leads. And so what I'm seeing in this account right now is for the live campaign, they have a maximize conversions bidding strategy. So this is an automated bidding strategy. You're basically utilizing Google's AI to say, hey, go try to get me as many conversions as possible. So this can be a really costly strategy for B2B companies. And the reason being is because Google actually does not know who you are specifically trying to target. And with B2B companies, again, a big part of it is there's a specific ideal customer profile that you are trying to sell to. And if you don't reach those people, they're never going to buy your software. So the issue with maximize conversion is it doesn't really take into account quality. So what we always recommend is starting with a manual bidding strategy. And that's what I recommend for this company. And then what's interesting about Google's automated bidding strategies, it uses the data that you're feeding it to further optimize its bidding strategy. So what that means is anyone who converts, it basically looks at those conversions and it says, hey, I'm going to go try to find more people that look just like this. So the problem is if you're bringing in unqualified conversions from the start, you're basically feeding that unqualified data to Google and saying, hey, Google, go get me more garbage. And so that's why it's important to start with a manual bidding strategy to start. Make sure you're consistently getting the right conversions coming through. And then as you're collecting that data, then maybe you can think about turning on an automated bidding strategy when you have the right data to feed it. And the issue with this account specifically is, as we showed in the first step, their conversions are wrong. They're recording all page views to their demo request page as conversions. So they're basically not even counting conversions as people who actually converted. And they're going and telling Google, hey, just go find more of this. And so it's this vicious cycle of garbage in, garbage out. And what it does is it makes the algorithm go crazy. And you end up spending a lot of money on keywords that don't make sense and end up bringing in more unqualified conversions. So the next thing we want to do is we want to evaluate the ad group structure. So what's really important is that all your keywords that are similar get grouped into single theme ad groups. That's essentially a group of keywords that are very similar. And what you want to do is, because they're all similar search queries, you want to send them to an ad that is very relevant to those search queries and a landing page that also satisfies that. So what happens a lot of times is companies offer different services, have different ways of describing their product. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that for all those different variations, they're grouped similarly and they're getting an ad that's very relevant to that search term. If you don't do this, and what you see a lot of times is you see companies put all their keywords in one ad group, driving to one ad and one landing page, it's very unrelevant to the searcher. It reduces click-through rate and conversion rate, and it lowers your quality score, which is a score Google gives you on how relevant they think your ad is to what you're targeting. And if your ad quality score is low, you're gonna have to pay more to show up. If your quality score is high, you're gonna have to pay less. Google's trying to incentivize you to do the right practices to make sure your ads are relevant to what people are searching. So I'm just looking at the account here. I'm gonna go into the ad group. So one thing that just stands out right now is they only have one ad group. So that's usually a sign that they didn't group things separately. And overall, some of these keywords are pretty similar, like cybersecurity software, cybersecurity services. Like those are the type of keywords you'd wanna group together and write very specific ads about that. But information security, a little bit different. Data security, a little bit different. Operational technology, threat intelligence. These are all like different kind of categories. And if these keywords made sense, you'd want to group them again into separate ad groups and write specific ads about threat intelligence, specific ads about operational technology, specific ads about data security, and driving the landing pages that specifically talk about those features as they relate to the search terms. So my recommendation here, and obviously I recommended them to kind of change the keywords completely, but really get this structure down so that you're driving highly relevant ads for your searchers. The last thing we want to check is device targeting. So what we found with B2B companies and people targeting corporations and mid-market companies is that the majority of buyers convert on desktop. And I think the reason that is because when you're making a purchase for your work, more often than not, you're doing that at work, at your desk, at your desktop. A lot of times you're not on the weekends on your couch, on your cell phone, searching for software for your job. What we typically see, and we see this a lot in the data, is that the mobile targeting is where all the bad conversions come from, and the desktop targeting is where all the qualified conversions come from. If I'm looking at this account here, and I can do this on the overview page here, I can just take a look at a breakdown of their device targeting and what the percentage of spend is. So you can see here that 85% of their spend has gone to mobile targeting. So this is a huge opportunity here. So what I would recommend to them is just to lower the bids on mobile targeting very low, maybe 100%, 90%. They want to keep a little bit on mobile. But if they shift all their budget to desktop, again, they're going to target more of those corporate buyers and the quality is going to go up immensely. And we've seen this time and time again. So there you have it. That's my 6-step B2B Google Ads audit checklist that has helped so many companies generate much more qualified conversions through their ad strategy and save a ton of money on wasted spend. Now, this auditing is obviously super impactful, but if you don't have that conversion tracking and integration with your CRM set up correctly in the first place, you're not going to have the right data to actually make these optimization decisions. So watch this video on how to set up conversion tracking properly for for your Google Ads account. And that'll help you set the foundation to auditing your account and making the optimizations necessary to drive the conversions that'll help you generate more revenue from your account.